So we are recording, I think. Okay. So welcome, Anna. Thanks for joining me with this. And I'm glad I get to talk to you tonight and share some information. Some of it you may already know. Some of it hopefully will be new and helpful for you.
Thank you.
Okay. So now, well, first, let me start off by saying I am not a medical professional. I have no training in medicine or nutrition or anything that qualifies me as an expert, except that I am a determined parent with both my two-legged children and my four-legged children. And so I've been on a journey, and I have found really incredible success with this journey, and I feel like I owe it to people to tell them about it. Not so that they'll follow me, but so that they'll know and they can make an informed decision. So we're not going to talk about my doTERRA essential oils tonight, but I need to tell this story so that there's an understanding of how I got to the place where I am, where I'm talking about nutrition and toxins and all of that. So about 10 years ago, I had MRSA, and that's the antibiotic-resistant staph infection. And I went to the doctors. It's pretty serious, and people were actually really kind of freaked out about it. I had some nurses saying, you can't come into the facility, you're gonna infect everyone, and it was kind of scary. So I went to the doctor. I was on antibiotics for 2 years. I went through all the antibiotics that were available at that time, except for 2. And I took them. I had allergic reactions to most of them. And so I was down to 2. One of them is intravenous. And at that point, after 2 years, and I kept getting the same basic recommendations for healthcare, I decided that I needed to take my health into my own hands. And so instead of continuing to take antibiotics, I decided to research alternative solutions for myself. And what I came across on the internet was a group of people who had holistically healed or gotten rid of their MRSA. And how they had done that was with essential oils. And I had been involved in yoga, so we always had, you know, pretty smelling stuff in the studios, and so I was familiar with essential oils, but this group of people were really adamant that, you know, they're not the kind of essential oils that you get in the Whole Foods store or the health food store, or, you know, wherever you're finding them. These are pharmaceutical grade essential oils, and you can only order them online. Okay, so I ordered the 2 bottles of essential oils. I used them religiously. I never ran out of them for the last 10 years. I've kept them in my medicine cabinet. And I got rid of the MRSA. And it opened my eyes. It really opened my eyes to finding out that everybody has bacteria on their skin around them at all times. So you have MRSA on you, I have MRSA on me, but the only time it becomes a problem and the only time there's a systemic issue is when the immune system is suppressed. And then I found out that antibiotics suppress the immune system. So not being a clinician, but being able to put 2 and 2 together, they're giving me medicine that's continuing to keep my body in a state that leaves it open to this illness. It didn't make sense. So that's where I got the aha moment that my health is my responsibility. And so I need to look at things in terms of how can I keep my immune system as healthy as possible at all times. And one of the ways of doing that is not introducing medicines, antibiotics. I have not taken an antibiotic in almost 10 years. And I've had issues, but I have used other methods because I want to keep my immune system strong. So that's how I got here. And then I had this amazing boy came into my life. This is Barney. Can you see that, Anna?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see. There we go. So this boy came into my life, and he had chronic illness. He had gut issues, he had ear issues, he had skin issues, and they were never ending. And we were giving him antibiotics and GI medicine and, you know, medicated baths and I'm sure steroids and during that time I hadn't yet I had put like 1 and 1 together, but I hadn't put 2 and 2 together. So when I finally did that, I realized that for him and for my other pets, I need to do the same thing for them that I did for myself, which was do everything possible to strengthen the immune system. And by doing that, I can help them, can give them the strength in their body to help heal themselves. So because I'm such a crazy dog mom, animal lover, but dogs are my focus. So that's how I got into what we're going to talk about now. And it's all been a journey. It's all been a lot of ahas. And I know so many people who feel the same way about their animals that I feel about mine. And I know that if I had been doing something that I found out was not helpful to my animals, I would want to know so that I could decide how I wanted to proceed. So that's why I'm doing this. That's why I'm talking about this. And the primary thing that we need to do when we're talking about keeping the immune system strong is looking at the food that we put into our pets' bodies. So this Dr. Mark Hyman says, food has the power to heal us. It's the most potent tool we have to prevent and treat many of our chronic diseases. And this is, he's actually referring to humans, but it's the same thing for our animals, because when we give them proper nutrition, you know, to properly feed the cells in the body can heal itself. The thing that really got me going on this journey with the food and the toxins and the things other than the essential oils, which I love, and I use them for a lot of things, and they're complementary. But whenever I talk to somebody who is having issues with their animal, the very first thing I ask them is, what are you feeding? Because that is going to make all the difference in the world. You can use all the supplements, you can use all the alternative medicines, but if you're continuing to feed them in a way that fuels the inflammation, it's not going to work. So I tell people there's an hour-long documentary. It's called Pet Fooled. It will give you the knowledge that you need to be able to understand what is in the food that you're feeding your animal. And once you know that, then you can decide what you want to buy and what you want to put in their dish, and you can watch how it affects their health. There are so many people now who are starting to understand that our pets need whole, fresh food just like we do, we humans do. So there's articles out there that are talking about how people are starting to stop buying kibble, the dry food. I love this. The food you eat can either be the safest, most powerful form of medicine, or it can be the slowest form of poison. And when you watch Pet Food, you will understand that this McDonald's meal here is essentially what we have been told for decades now, that we should be feeding our animals from the day they're born until the day they die for every single meal. And it's no wonder that we have so much chronic illness in our pets. It's really important to understand the body and the digestive system of the carnivore. Dogs are carnivores, and their body is meant to eat meat. When they're out in the wild, nobody's cooking their food for them, and if you spend time going through this, and I'm happy to send it out, you'll see that their digestive tracts are designed to easily process raw food and eat bones, and never, ever, ever, ever cooked bones. I don't want to get into the specifics of the raw diet, because that's something that you can decide to do or not decide to do, but it is really a viable option, and certainly one that I and many hundreds of thousands, maybe millions around the world have found to be incredibly helpful in getting our animals to a much, much stronger, healthier state. So 10 rules for raw feeding, and I just want to be clear, we're talking about fresh food. So if you decide that you are just not okay with raw feeding, any step that you make away from kibble is better for your animal. So this isn't a one-size-fits-all, and this isn't I'm telling you that the only way you can do this is to feed a raw diet. But these same rules apply whether it's a raw diet or lightly cooked, fresh food. So I just want to make that clear. I'm not going to go through these other than to say that carbohydrates are what is creating most of the illness in our animals. And the dry food has more carbohydrates, even the grain-free, than it does any other ingredient. And carbohydrates turn to sugar. Sugar feeds disease. And so we're looking at cancer, we're looking at diabetes, we're looking at allergies. Allergies are off the charts. That's the one thing that I hear from people the most, is skin, ear, yeast, all of that. Dr. Karen Becker is really an incredible holistic vet. I encourage everybody to follow her. And she knows that not everybody can feed fresh food or a raw diet. So she has alternatives, things that you can do that if you can only feed kibble, what you can do to make it better for your pet. Okay. Quick guide for feeding your dog raw. I think the thing that I really wanted to point out here is the carbohydrates. In the wild, dogs are not eating carbohydrates. They're certainly not eating wheat and corn, and whatever fruit and vegetables they're getting is what is in their prey's stomach. So it really is a very small amount. Okay. One of the things I love to give my dog is bone broth, and that's something that you can make using any bones, even the roasted chicken that you get from Costco. You can take that carcass and make bone broth with it, and it's really helpful for their gut health, for their joints, and I like to use it kind of as a stomach soother. If I need to give any medicine, I put it in a little bit of bone broth and they can eat it that way. Okay, so the next thing when we're looking at keeping our animals' immune system strong is vaccinations. So, Anna, do you vaccinate?
We used to, not anymore.
Okay. Excuse me. So, again, you have an immune system. You're introducing something into the body that it doesn't recognize, and so it flares up and it weakens the immune system. The problem with the vaccinations, and there's a lot of research out there, and I'm not going to go into all of the research, but I'm going to just give you my cliff notes on it. When the dogs get their vaccinations, I find it to be most helpful to spread them out. So instead of at the 9 to 12 weeks, giving the 3 vaccinations together, I would prefer to go in every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks and get one of the vaccinations, just to have less of a chance for there to be a reaction, give their body a better chance to be stronger when they get the vaccination. And then also with the general dewormer, depending on what it is that your vet is giving you, there are natural products that can be used that act as a dewormer. So the point is that there are options. And what I learned when I was helping my Barney with his illnesses was I needed to be his advocate, and I needed to be able to work with my vet and explain that we don't want to do the annual DHPP and Corona and Bordetella because he has a weakened immune system, and his body can't handle it. His body is already fighting illness. So it's important to find a vet that you can work with who understands that every animal is different. And certainly in the inserts for the vaccinations, it says that the vaccinations should only be given when the animal is healthy. So if you're dealing with an animal who is immune compromised, who has any sort of illness, and that could even be old age. There doesn't have to be the vaccination. There can be, let's see, we'll go back to that, a titer test, which is a blood test that checks to see what the antibodies are in the dog's blood. And now that they've changed from every 3 years for a lot of them to every 1 year, there certainly isn't a need for those annual vaccinations because the antibodies are still in the animal's body. And we just don't want to keep introducing stuff into their body and have their body trying to fight it off. So we're talking about core vaccines and non-core vaccines. The parvo vaccination for puppies is really important. The distemper is really important. The hepatitis and the rabies. Rabies is required by law, but there are exemptions for rabies as well. If you're dealing with an animal that has a compromised immune system, you can get a titer. And a lot of vets either don't know about it or they don't want to do it. I'm not sure which, but there are enough vets out there that will do it. And if nothing else, Dr. Jean Dodds does the titer testing. You just have to have the blood sent to her, and she actually does it for a really nominal amount compared to some of the labs. So again, the non-core vaccines are administered based on a dog's risk of exposure and also on based on that dog's specific health status. Okay. They now have a rabies titer test in the United States. I think my vet quoted it to me. We were talking about getting a rabies titer for my Tinkerbell, who passed away probably 6 weeks after the conversation. So we didn't have time to do it, but I think it was like $300, which is crazy. And I almost think that it's that expensive because they don't want you to do it. They want you to get the vaccination. But titer is a good alternative to going with the vaccination schedule that they have. And also with the vaccinations, and Anna, you can speak to this better than I can because my dogs are all over 60 pounds. The amount of vaccination injected into an animal is the same, whether it's a wolfhound that weighs 180 pounds or a Shih Tzu that weighs 6 pounds.
Yes, it's horrible.
It doesn't make any sense at all.
No, it's just horrible. I mean, that's why we stopped. I said, there's no way my little 6-pound dog is gonna get the same thing that the 100-pound dog does.
Yeah. It defies logic.
Exactly.
Okay, so when I was looking up the information on the flea and tick medication, the Roundup that is on the fertilizer and the weed killer that is on our lawns. I think it was in the year 2000, there was an article that said that there is no known there is no known illness caused by the glyphosate from Roundup. And this is the Monsanto product. This is the product that they just concluded a lawsuit where they awarded a custodian, a maintenance worker, with millions of dollars for the cancer that he contracted because of the Roundup that he used every single day.
Wow.
And had been told repeatedly that it was safe. And so this is the same toxic stuff that is put on the lawn that they said was safe, that our pets go out and they walk on, they lay on, they roll in. And so we don't want them to do that. They are talking about bladder cancer, lymphoma. There are so many dogs that Barney had lymphoma. When lawn pesticides are used, dogs have a 70% increased chance of developing lymphoma. Regardless, it's a danger to people, it's a danger to pets, and we just need to be mindful that if we're going to use it, we need to keep it away from our animals. Or we can find something that is an alternative that doesn't stress their immune system. I found this really interesting because a lot of the information I see where people talk about, and they talk about the flea and tick medication, but this is the same thing. A pesticide is a pesticide is a pesticide. And they say, I've been using it for years and I've never had a problem. Well, you were lucky. And this says that a recent study found that there's a significant increase in diseases in the second and third generation of offspring. So you can use these products, you can expose your animals to these products, you cannot have any problems, but that doesn't mean that if they have a litter, those animals are not going to have a product or not going to have a problem. So that I found that really, really interesting. And then, of course, we just this year got a warning letter from the Food and Drug Administration, finally admitting that there is a possibility that these products can cause neurological damage. And if you look on the internet, you can see videos that are just heart-wrenching of dogs and cats who are having seizures, who are suffering from neurological damage, and in a lot of cases can't be reversed, and they need to be put down. They need to be euthanized because of the damage. Okay, so now what? So my big takeaways for this are, with all of this information, and there's a lot of it out there, so it can get really confusing, do your own research. If you want to be your animal's advocate, you need to step outside the box and watch Pet Food, because that'll tell you everything that I want to tell you about those bags of dry food. There are countless groups on Facebook that have decades of experience, and they have experience-based research. Find a holistic practitioner. There's not a whole lot of them out there, but there's enough. And you can get information from them to help you figure out better ways to do things for your animals. Go with your gut. Just like as a parent with a child, you know something's wrong, you know this isn't right, you know this isn't working, you know that there's got to be another way, you know. So don't ignore that intuition. And then, of course, enjoy every day with your furry friend. So I hope this was helpful, and I look forward to answering your questions. Let's see.
Okay, so it's just me.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I, you know, like we've been talking